I would like to call the regular board meeting of the Vallecitos Water District to order for April 1st, 2026. Before we begin, I would like to announce that members of the public may watch the meeting live online by visiting the district's website and clicking the Watch Live icon. However, they will not be able to participate in the meeting remotely. General Counsel Gilpin, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, I will. Ready to begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Jim. Directors, please indicate your attendance. Kirsten, do we have any additions to the agenda?
No additions to the agenda, and we have not received any public comments on our non-agenda items.
Okay, thank you. May I have a motion to adopt the agenda for the
To approve.
Okay, motion by Director Hernandez, second by Director Brown. Please vote. Motion passes, and we have no public speakers. May I have a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented? Okay, motion by Director Brown.
Second.
Second by Director Pennick. Please vote. All right, okay, and the first action item on the agenda, I need to recuse myself from this decision. I am employed with Hoke Consulting, who is part of this change, so I'm going to be leaving the room, and Vice President Altharp will take over while I'm gone, so.
See you in a half hour. Okay, so the first action item 2.1, request approval of construction contract award for the Rock Springs valve replacement and pipeline condition assessment project.
Yeah, sorry, Vice President.
Go ahead, General Manager.
Yeah, so this item is basically award of contract and some amendments for the consultant, and our Director of Engineering, Elizabeth Lopez, will be presenting on it.
Thank you, General Manager Gumpel. Good evening, Board of Directors. This item for consideration for this evening for the Rock Springs Valve Replacement and Pipeline Condition Assessment Project is to authorize the General Manager to execute a construction agreement with Shaw Equipment Rentals, Inc., and authorize the General Manager to execute Amendment Number 2 under Current Task Order Number 3 with Hoke Consulting for construction phase services for the project. This project is located at the intersections of Rock Springs Road and Bennett Avenue in San Marcos. Installed in 1956, an 18-inch bar wrap steel pipeline brings treated water about 3 miles off San Diego County Water Authority First Aqueduct from the district's Val 11 connection on Rincon Avenue in Escondido. It brings water into the 920 pressure zone, which serves several communities along the corridor, the 78 corridor. The pipeline on this exhibit is in Reese Road, and then it goes through an easement shown in red on the map, and then the pipeline goes into Rock Springs Road from there. Several valves on this transmission main located in the intersection of Rock Springs and Bennett, shown on the map in the yellow hatched area, have exceeded their useful life and are non-functional. Valve replacement is necessary to maintain the water system and provide isolation during emergencies and shutdowns. The district awarded as-needed engineering design consultant, Hoke Consulting, I'll refer to as Hoke, Task Order 1 for initial design phase services of a valve replacement project back in November 2022. A subsequent Task Order Number 2 was issued for Hoke for additional design and bid phase services in August of 2023. When that design was completed, a project to replace one 10-inch valve, one 14-inch valve, and one 18-inch valve in this intersection. They were all inoperable. So the bid project was to replace the inoperable valves, and the project was publicly advertised with bids received in February of 2025. Bids received were significantly over the engineer's estimate and the project's budget, so staff rejected all bids and decided to reevaluate the project scope and rebid the project, which is why we're here this evening. You may notice this section of pipeline shown as red is in an easement. It goes through private property, people's backyards, and under structures. It's very difficult for operations staff to access. This portion of the 18-inch pipeline has a risk score of 20.2 out of 25, and it's a critical asset, 25 being the highest score you could have for risk. The risk score comes from the district's asset management plan, and the score is determined by the pipeline's likelihood of failure and consequence of failure. As part of the planning efforts of the Steel Pipeline Condition Assessment Program, the district identified an opportunity to optimize the scope of this project by performing a condition assessment for the portion of the 18-inch pipeline shown on this exhibit in red. Because the pipeline needs to be shut down to replace these valves, so we thought it would be a good opportunity to get inside the pipe and take a look and perform a condition assessment. That assessment will provide data for future infrastructure decisions for this portion of the 18-inch pipeline. Since rejecting bids in 2025 and adding the condition assessment to the project scope of work for the construction agreement hopefully awarded this evening, the district issued HOAC Task Order Number 3 for design phase services to add the condition assessment to the scope of the project. And our operations staff replaced the 10-inch valve in this intersection, which was in the original project bid last year. While operations was replacing that 10-inch valve, they also replaced two 12-inch valves near the intersection to ensure that the contractor being awarded this work has a good shutdown to replace the 10 and 18-inch valves. The newly combined valve replacement and condition assessment project completed design in early 2026, and staff publicly advertised the project on February 18th, 2026. We received 3 bids that were opened on March 19th, 2026, and Shaw Equipment Rentals was the low bidder for an amount of $926,820. Staff and district council completed the evaluation of Shaw Equipment Rentals bid and determined they were the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Additionally, staff has requested a proposal from HOAC for Task Order 3 Amendment 2 to add construction phase services to their scope of work. The proposal received was for a time and materials fee not to exceed $15,990. That amendment would put HOAC's total design services or services for design, bid, and construction support at $61,600. With that, staff recommends the board authorize the general manager to execute a construction agreement with Shaw Equipment Rentals in the amount of $926,820 and authorize the general manager to execute Amendment 2, Task Order 3 with HOAC Consulting in the amount of $15,990.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yeah, I just would like to add one thing, a little bit of history with this project. So, and today is April 1st, and I wish this project going through underneath houses was an April Fool's joke, but unfortunately it is not. When I first started here in 2005, the then operations manager came to me when I was in supervisor in engineering and said, hey, these valves over here, they don't work, and we're really concerned about this 1950s pipe going underneath the houses. So, and that was almost 21 years ago, so this project is definitely overdue and something that the district feels is a critical asset that needs to be evaluated to make sure that the pipeline is safe.
So I assume, depending on the condition assessment, we might be looking at relocation of the pipeline?
Yeah, I mean, I'm forever the optimist with some realism in there. So my expectation hopefully is that we have some spot repairs and maybe some areas where we'd have to evaluate either slip linings or doing some other work. And access is tough on that pipeline, and obviously knowing the pipeline's in great shape would be the best news. But we're definitely looking forward to the evaluation.
The backyard easements are never ideal.
Yeah, technically you're supposed to go in between homes, but I think there's some structures that were built on top of it over time.
Yeah, that's my question. How'd that happen?
Well, I don't know. It happened sometime between 1956 and before I got here. So,
Architects.
Can't even plant trees now in an easement.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask Kirsten, are there any public speakers for this agenda item?
Thank you. We've not received any requests to speak on this item.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from the board?
I have a question. I'm assuming that none of the homeowners have been contacted yet, right?
Not yet. There will be coordination before the contractor mobilizes. Obviously, their water's going to be, the pipeline's going to be out of service, so part of the contract is establishing a high line so we could keep those properties, those customers' water on. So there'll be coordination during construction to coordinate that.
So, so once this is approved, if it's approved this evening, then how quickly are we going to start to turn this around or get started? Is it going to be pretty quick? And what would be the timeline?
Yeah, so a couple things. So just to be clear, the actual construction work that's going to happen is within the yellow box itself.
Just the
Oh,
valve.
just
Yeah.
that?
Just the valves, yeah.
replacement.
The red work is actually in a machine that they put inside the pipe that is lack of, but is it kind of like an X-ray or electromagnetic? Yeah, almost like an MRI, so to speak, of inside the pipe, which shows the points of weakness in the pipe. So that's non-destructive and will give us a report that gives us an idea of if that pipe is in good shape and if it isn't, where or how many weak spots there are. But there won't be any construction activity along the red line.
Okay. But we do let people know what's going to be happening because it's right at that four-way stop. And I would
Yes.
think people are going to have questions.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yes.
yeah, I just was hoping that people would be able to know and at least have some advance information. Thank you.
Any other comments?
It's kind of on, how long of the project would this be?
Timeframe,
Timeframe of the actual construction? Because, I mean, you're shutting off the water periodically or permanently for construction?
so it will be a long time shutdown, but the customers will be highlined, so they won't be out of water. They're just we're going to run a temporary pipeline from another pipe in Reese Road. So their water service won't be interrupted while we're replacing the valves and doing the condition assessment.
And the replacement of the valves, length of time for construction is roughly, I mean, are we talking weeks, months?
Probably a couple weeks.
Oh, just a couple weeks, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
How many service connections are on the old pipeline?
So there will be 20 customers impacted by shutting down this line.
And it's right there at the intersection? I mean, is it on the corners or right in the middle of the street? You know?
The customers?
No, the actual construction, the valves.
Oh, yeah, they're in the intersection, so traffic control will be significant.
And just historically, I mean, that's a flooded area. Is that part of the problem there? Or are we thinking of maybe while we're tearing up the street that we could also work with the city or anything? Because I don't know if you've been through there on a
Rock
rain.
Springs.
It floods pretty good.
Yeah.
Is that part of anything we're looking at while we're digging holes?
No, and groundwater does seem to be common in this area.
Yeah, ironically, I've done 3 projects in Rock Springs, and we've hit springs and we've hit rock. So it's aptly named. So,
Really?
Can't imagine.
Interesting. No, you already touched on it. Good.
Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve staff's recommendation.
Move to approve.
I can second that.
Okay. Moved by Director Hernandez, seconded by Director Pennick. Please vote. It's 4 affirmative. Thank you.
Although I did vote, I just had a quick question, even though I mean it's approved. Have we used equipment rentals before, Shaw Equipment Rentals?
I've worked with them at my previous place of employment. I don't know if he's done work here.
yeah, Shaw's done work here for us before in the past.
Besides just renting equipment?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
they've done sewer line install, they've worked directly on district projects, usually smaller projects.
Yeah, I've had them as a contractor on my construction projects.
Thank you.
I know them well.
Wow, he snuck in fast.
Yeah, I was looking at that really cool illustration on the wall from 1968 with
The water,
Yeah,
reservoirs?
with all of the reservoirs in California, so I could look at that for a long time. It's really cool. Okay, so we're done with action item 2.1. 2.2, request approval of 2-year agreement extension and rate adjustment with BB&K for general counsel services.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, no public speakers? Okay.
Yeah, thank you, President KERSCHBAUM.
Yes.
So BBK's contract basically started about 3 years ago and is timed with a 3-year contract which ends today, or yesterday. But within the contract, yes, so within the contract, there's an opportunity for up to 2-year extension. So either do 2 1-year or do a 2-year extension. Also at BBK submitted a letter to the board requesting a rate adjustment. Looking at BBK's rates, currently under the contract, their rates are far below the average rate for agencies, other public agencies, our peers in the county. Vallecitos is arguably a little bit larger than some of the peers and somewhat more complex in some ways. So looking at the request from Jim Gilpin for the request, he gave 2 options for the rate. One was option 1, which had different general counsel and rates that were fixed, and then basically special counsel rate. Option 2 was another rate, and staff evaluated both options and looked at option 2 as the most advantage. So with that, staff evaluated the letter from BBK and is recommending a 2-year extension of the contract, and option 2, which is the tiered rate structure instead of blended rate for the district. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, and of course, Jim's here to answer any questions also. Not the voluntary agent.
Any questions from the board?
Just a statement. I've been on the board 16 years now. Jim's been here 8, did you say?
Yes.
Yeah. Excellent work, always appreciated, and well job. Evaluations show it, so happy to move that we accept the option 2 and the 2-year extension.
I'm happy to second that.
All right, motion by Director Hernandez, second by Director Elithart. Please vote. Motion passes. Thank you. Okay, moving on to reports. General Manager.
I have no report tonight, ma'am.
District Legal Counsel.
No report, just thank you all for the continued relationship. I know there's not only one lawyer you'd prefer over me, Jim, but she's busy tonight, but I appreciate all of you and thank you.
Okay, San Diego County Water Authority. I brought visual aids this time to make my presentation a little bit more exciting. So it was a pretty exciting day, and let's go to the other one first. This was not these ones. It's we had a signing ceremony on this is the picture I was looking for. So we had we signed an agreement at the board meeting in March with Western Municipal Water District to transfer some water to them from our excess supply. So I think I've talked about this in previous board meetings before, but County Water Authority in the 90s and early 2000s invested billions to build up our storage capacity and also to diversify our water supply. Fast forward to where we are now, my fellow board members know very well that demand for water has gone down significantly compared to what people thought in the 90s. So the authority is in a similar situation that Vallecitos is that we are contracted for more water than we have the demand for. So, and we kind of deal with that on a little bit smaller scale with our desal plant contract. So there's this idea has been in the works for a while to sell some of this excess supply that we have to our neighboring agencies. And this Western Municipal Water District is an agency in Met's purview. So a water transfer is fairly, I'm not going to say simple because it would insult everybody that's working on this deal, but a lot easier than transferring water to another state that's not under MET's umbrella. So the way it works, just in general terms, is that we transfer some of our rights to the river water to Western, and they pay County Water Authority a pre-agreed rate. And in this case, it's about $1,300 an acre foot. And we signed a deal with them for them to buy 10,000 acre feet a year, which is a $13 million cash inflow to the authority. And again, this is excess water. The projections for the next 10 to 20 years show about 50,000 acre feet of excess water per year over the course of many years. Obviously, that'll fluctuate. But this was years of collaboration and work. I just showed up as a new board member, and I got to vote with the board. There was a press conference afterwards, and Western was there. James was there for the signing as well. So it was an exciting day and a great move forward as far as collaboration and really the health of the authority overall. So that was the big event of the day. Is there any questions on that? No?
I'd just like to say great work.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Like I said, I wasn't involved in, the years and years of advocating for this. So, I kind of felt like, okay, like I couldn't really take credit for it, but I was certainly happy to vote with a unanimous board and say yes for the agreement. So that was exciting. And everything else the rest of the day, this was in the morning, and we were just kind of trying to get through the rest of the agenda. This was at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we had a full agenda. So a lot of boring stuff after that probably I don't need to bore you guys with. And then the other thing that I brought pictures of is I joined several other board members from County Water Authority for a tour of the Carlsbad desal plant. So, and yeah, this is the reverse osmosis system inside. You can kind of see, that's the CEO of Channelside that's standing right there. So I wanted to get her in the picture so you can kind of get a perspective, if you haven't been in there, on how the size of this is just huge. Like there's just rows and rows and rows of these membranes that are in tubes, and the water is pushed through with a really high pressure to remove the salinity. And but the authority in partnership with Channelside just replaced the intake structure. And if you go to the selfie picture, you can see the intake structure behind me. And that was like a $150 million project to install that. I couldn't get a picture on the other side because interestingly enough, this is all leased land that the desal plant sits on. It's leased from the former power plant that was there for NRG. So we used to be able to stand on this little dock and like take a picture of the intake structure, and now you just kind of see it from this side. But it was cool to see, and the intake structure was the first of its kind because there's new regulations on the size of the screens. So the screen, the opening is very, very small. It's almost like a window screen, so there's a lot of concerns about there being problems with it getting clogged all the time. And so far, that hasn't happened. There's a power wash system that's constantly, when you're there, you can hear the power wash system going through constantly, so they're constantly spraying off those screens, and apparently it's been working well. And so that was pretty cool to see because that's one of our sources of water. So for Vallecitos. And that concludes my report. It's okay.
When do we start selling the water? Or when does San Diego County Water Authority, when does the?
So we, that question actually came up in the board because, yeah, like when are we going to have cash in hand? And it's going to be it'll be like several months. I mean, probably 3 to 4 months before we actually get a first payment for it. So, and the member agency managers have a meeting once a month, and with kind of like this new sort of outlook on how the authority is doing business. The member agency managers have been meeting to kind of come up with like a new business plan that they want to submit to the board, and this is going to be like a year-long process, so.
Yeah, so we meet, the MAM meets monthly, but we also meet about every 2 months or so and have basically almost a full day or three-quarter day business plan meeting where we're going over the direction, where's the North Star, what's the direction for the next 20, 30 years for the water authority. So we're developing that plan. At the end of the day, the result will be a business model, business plan that is going to be presented to the board for consideration. The board will make the final determination, obviously, but these are things that there'll be hundreds of hours that the general managers put into this event, but to this plan. And they'll include items like excess revenue policy. What are we going to do with the excess revenue? Because to use that excess revenue one time and lose it all, in the eyes of at least most of the general managers, would be a waste. So how do we ensure that it's lasting and it's got generational equity? Those are type of things that we're dealing with, along with just business model functions, how the water authority interacts. It will really be, I think, a new era for the water authority, which will still take decades to finally get into fruition, but it's a great step.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate the work that you all are doing, and I know that myself and several other board members really want to wait to get the input from the MAM before we make decisions on excess revenue. So it should be interesting because I feel like there's also some other members of the board who see this cash coming in and right away they want to figure out a way to spend it. So, but there was certainly discussion at the board meeting about the excess revenue policy and really waiting to get direction from the experts, which is you guys. So thank you for your work on that. And that's the end of my report. So now Encina Wastewater Authority.
I wasn't at the Clearwater budget
Oh,
meeting,
there
so
was yeah, and you could probably fill in better than I can, but there was we did have a workshop at Encina. You're already laughing because I don't keep notes, I don't have pictures. I just report back on what I remember, and it's called the CLEAR Project at Encina Wastewater. It's at $30 million?
Yeah, it'll be 36.
It's a $35 million project, depending on grants and how much, but it's how Encina is going to meet regulations because of the air quality, and they're looking at a longer term resolution to energy. And this is through linear generators and natural gas and all kinds of, I can't explain it like an engineer can, but it was approved. It is a lot of money spent. There was a lot of questions, but it is a way to combat, they're trying to get off the grid, SDG&E grid. And so they're thinking of better ways to bring energy to that facility without, most efficiently. And so help me with what's going on there.
So yeah, there's the new air toxics rule and the new basic air quality control rules basically have changed the level in which Encina could operate. So to do that, no matter what, Encina has to condition its gas. So Encina produces enough biogas to basically produce its own energy, but it doesn't burn clean and it creates pollutants. So to do that, there's probably, I don't know the exact number, but around $19 million just on a new gas conditioning system. And then the opportunity is, if you're going to do that, there's an opportunity to actually do some expansion of that project, get more grants, and be able to produce maybe 100% of your energy on site. It's a solution, and the rules and regulations will determine whether it's a long-term solution. There's definitely some split opinions on it. However, if doing nothing will definitely have an increased cost to all its member agencies. And you'll be more on the grid and be flaring or wasting biogas, so to speak, which you're allowed to do, but if you use it, you have to treat it. So
this is just conceptual stage right now and presenting.
no, it's
No?
actually at the
Oh.
last off-ramp. So,
Oh, okay.
So basically, it's negotiating a contract with Willdan Engineering for I think the contract itself is a $29 million contract to complete the design, which is conceptual at 60% right now. and then procure the equipment, hire the contractor, and build it. And then there's performance spec and performance agreements. And I had a bunch of questions at the workshop, so most of them were answered very well by staff to basically move the project forward. At the end of the day, it is going to cost extra, and it is going to have an extra operational cost compared to how we operate today. But doing nothing, you'll have a higher operational cost in the future. So this is not a money savings, but it's going to cost. This is not proper. It's going to cost less extra in the future than doing nothing. If that makes sense.
Does it,
See, that's why it's hard to explain, huh?
does it
So it's-
also include food waste offsite?
A little bit.
They still had that process and program. They're using that as, if they need to generate more biogas, they could, collect, it's a revenue source for them, for the dump station, for the food waste, for restaurants. But no, this is currently trying to utilize their existing productivity coming off the digesters. And, linear generators are more efficient. We're kind of, I won't say on the bleeding edge, but on the edge is linear generators using natural gas have been very efficient, low maintenance, high operational output at a high efficiency. This is linear generation on conditioned biogas, which still is being proven out.
So was there a board action, or was it just a
So
workshop?
there was, ironically, it's called the CLEAR project, and it's not super clear, but yes, there was board action. And you explained it very well, but one of the biggest reasons is linear generators. That's fairly new, like it's on the edge. It hasn't been used a lot. We were one of, a few agencies in Southern Cal. But there was board action to proceed.
Oh, okay.
Spend money, mainly because there's timelines on receiving grant money. So if we didn't make a decision and start construction at least, then we had the opportunity to lose possibly, $15 million in grant money.
Oh, okay.
So there was an off-ramp that if we either don't do anything, like what I said, or we gotta start something now, so then we have to send all the paperwork up to possibly receive grant money,
Oh, okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Is that
Thank
clear?
you. It's clear.
Nice. Clear. It's the Clearer project.
Standing committees, any standing committees meet? Okay, directors' reports on meetings, conferences, or seminars attended. Nada? Okay, are there any directors' comments or future agenda items?
I do have one.
Okay.
Did you have your hand up?
Oh, I was just going to say that I did watch a webinar put on by the League of Women Voters about the future of the Colorado River. And the general manager from the San Diego County Water Authority was one of the speakers. It was interesting to hear the northern states and the southern contingency talking about the water. And it just explained it, but it was, again, for me, a real learning experience and kind of the background on this agreement that was signed in 1922 and now is really,
Yeah.
so it's just another learning experience for me, but it was really interesting.
Yeah. It's a lot to talk about the
Yeah.
river.
So just a future agenda item or future tour. We had that one tour a while ago, and you wanted us to bring up something to the board if another opportunity arose. And there was some fourth graders, all girls, that want to go on a little mini tour on April 21st at like 4 o'clock. I'm bringing this up for people to take notes on. It's just a little mini tour from 4 to 5 on April 21st.
At ENCINA or here?
Here.
Oh, okay.
Here. And these are just fourth grade girls, probably 8 of them that would just want to come by and learn more about water.
Okay.
It's not going to be as extensive as the other one. It's not about, Constitution and government. It's just more about Vallecitos and what we do here. So if that's an opportunity, if you're available or somebody's available, Chris or
Yeah,
somebody.
if you don't mind, I could have staff reach out to you and just
That would be
copy me
great.
to get information and
Yep.
coordinate, and then I'll just let the board know if there's anybody interested in coming that will be having a tour, and if it stays at April 21st at 4 p.m.
Okay, that would be, yeah, if we can, that'd be good. It's just, it'd be a little mini fun tour, about 10 girls,
Thank you.
fourth graders.
All right. If there's no further business to discuss, this meeting is adjourned at 5:34.
Nice.
Okay.